Hello everyone. So in the previous video, we looked at the general impact of Saturn, Rahu, Ketu and Jupiter transits for 2023. Okay. So I promised that I would do that for individual lagnas and rashis as well. So we are going to look into that in this next video. So here I have the article on my blog. You can also read it. Once I post it, it will be available. Okay, it's specifically for the 12 rashis that we will talk. And here I'm talking from the point of view of the ascendant, which is the lagna. But if you are interested, you can also explore into looking it from the sun or the moon's point of view. If it's your moon's Rashi, that is Aries or Taurus, etc., or if it's your sun's Rashi, that is Gemini, Cancer, Leo, etc., you can also read these results from that point of view and see if it makes sense for your chart. Okay. So once again, there is a little bit of introductory material we cover in 2 minutes and then go into the signs. Okay. So first, you must always read that article that I shared or the video that is there in the past before proceeding to read about the impact of the individual rashis. Otherwise, this will be an incomplete discussion. Okay. Further, it is extremely important to note once again that the positive and negative influences for any native will happen according to their fate, static promise indications, dasha, bhukti, and cards, etc. indications. Okay, I reiterate this fact because I do not want you to read this article and conclude that it will impact you in a severe manner. Okay, so what this article or what this video is all about is there is a scope, there is a probability that it might happen. Whether it will manifest or not will be subjective to your individual fate and your static promises in your birth chart. Okay, so I only want you to take the message that it's a probability. To some context, 35 to 40% of the results that I will describe next will manifest. Okay, 60% is not within the scope of predictions here. All right, simply for putting numbers there. There is one overlapping window for these four transits, which is very important and interesting, and that is from July 18th, 2023 to May 16th, 2024. Okay, so approximately 9 months time, when all four grahas, which is Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, Jupiter, would have made significant changes in transit. Okay, that means they have moved over to the next rashis that they are meant to. So you can expect that in this window of time, the major events indicated below, which we will discuss now. Okay, these events, both positive and negative, will manifest. Okay, or the seed of that event would be sowed in this window, you can say. However, for positive influences, it can begin to give fruits throughout the period from May 2023 to 12 Jan 2025. Okay, so whatever positives that I indicate here, you can expect to be relevant for this window of time. On the other hand, negative influences indicated below can begin to manifest from the period July 18th, 2023 to 25th May 2025. So when I say negative, these events that we're talking about for every Rashi can give those results in this particular window of time. Okay, that is again narrowing down the window for predictions. Alright. Then of course, as explained in the previous video or the previous article, you must always take into account the overall impact here as I described in the table for the 12 ascendant signs before concluding on these overall results. Okay, for instance, Aries has both positive and negative, and I tell that Aries has an overall mixed influence. So they will have a mixed bag of these results. Okay, so Taurus has both positive and negative descriptions here, but overall they have positive influences, which is green, so you can expect more of the positive to manifest than the negative. But that does not mean that your negatives will not manifest. If you are in a unlucky dasha and bhukti, or some other severe things are happening in your card spreads, or Varshafala is not looking good, it can also lead to negative things. Okay, you must take this into account, and only then you must go into deep diving of the signs. Okay, so this I will not repeat because we have discussed that extensively in the past videos. But one important point also you must take into account for advanced astrologers and techniques related to transits. Okay, so the sages and rishis, particularly in Brihad Parashara Hora Shastra, you'll find there are techniques which also show for the Gochara from the moon. As I told you, in India and Western countries, they look at from two important grahas. The West will mostly look at transits from the sun sign, and in India they look at it from the moon sign. But in India we have so much of dedicated system for the transits from the moon, so much to an extent that there are 12 rashis in the zodiac. The impact of the moon's Rashi is so much in India that if you use the word Rashi, they would think of it only as your moon's Rashi. Okay, so that's how much they give a focal point on the moon in India. All right, but that's not the case. As I mentioned, we must always take into account the ascendant. That's the most important thing, along with the sun and the moon. They're equally important, but the ascendant is the body, the self. The activation in the chart happens through the ascendant. Okay, so you can't ignore the ascendant. So we must take into account the gochara from the moon, which means the moon will also give a certain results from its placement for these transits of Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, and Jupiter. So you must always take into account. Partially, I've done that. I've shown how to do that for Saturn's transits in the previous videos and article. But in this one, you must also do the same for Rahu, Ketu, and Jupiter. We have not done that in this videos or in this article. Okay. Then there is a dedicated system of transits called Ashtaka Varga, which will describe the positive, negative results, whether how much positive, how much negative, which window of time it will happen. Okay, all that can be derived from Ashtaka Varga. We have not done that. Advanced techniques must be used like Ashtaka Varga for also to study the transits. Okay. Then there are textbooks like Yavana Jataka, which is a classical text once again, that will give the transits from different planetary placements. Okay, so for instance, as I mentioned, Saturn will be transiting in Pisces, Rahu Ketu will be in the Aries Libra axis, Jupiter will be in Taurus. But also we have the other grahas, which means Sun will change signs every month almost, right? Moon will change signs very quickly, right? And Mercury, Venus will also keep changing signs, but they will also impact Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, Jupiter, and the ascendant of the native. Okay, so how will those transits impact? And that is all given in textbooks like Yavana Jataka. Okay, so if you fixate on one graha, from that graha or from that position, how will the other grahas impact? All those results also we must take into account. That's why you see how complex it gets, and I've not even unraveled any of those things with only the past video and the past articles that we have seen. That itself was too much maybe for many people to process. But if you include all these things, it can only get complex. At the same time, the accuracy only keeps improving the more and more you include such techniques and systems. Okay, but no one astrologer will know many of these things, neither will they include that, and that's why they bungle most of those predictions. All right. Then there are, of course, other techniques as taught by Varaha Mihira and such, which you must always take into account before concluding on any of the transit techniques or the static promise of the chart. Okay, so authoritative books, authoritative sages and rishis, whatever they've taught, everything must be implemented into the calculations before proceeding. Okay. All right, so that is the introduction to this article. And now we can go into the individual ascendants. Okay, for Aries to Pisces, what their influences will be, we will describe that. Okay, once again, I will not repeat this table. I will leave that to your discretion and understanding. I think it's very simple to follow because I've made the table. I also encourage you to make the table every time you see complex transits happening. Okay. So before I begin to explain about the 12 signs, one important concept also you must note. Okay, in this text below for the 12 signs, there will be some repetition of both positive and negative for the signs. Okay, from Aries to Taurus, you'll see some things will coincide, and that will not make any sense. It will appear like how this can be both for Aries and Taurus. You will question how authentic it can be, or will it really manifest. Okay, because there is a recurrence that you will see. Okay. However, I want to explain that a little bit. Why it becomes so complex to derive these individual predictions. Okay. So for that, we have to cast a chart. And I will cast this chart using Vault of the Events. What we will do is we will use this overlapping window of time. So I'll cast it for August 1st, 2023. It's just a random time, but in this overlapping window. I want to describe the concept here, and then you will get the idea. So I've used August 1st, 2023, midnight time, USA, New York. Okay. So now this is the chart you will see. It's an Aries ascendant. It's good. And in this chart, you'll see Rahu is in Aries. He has just ingressed into Aries. Jupiter is in Taurus, in the middle of Taurus already. Saturn is in 5 degrees of Pisces. Ketu is in Libra, opposite Rahu always, and 28 degrees in Libra. Okay. And Sun, Venus are in Leo that time. Mercury, Mars are in Virgo. Moon is in Aquarius. This is the transit chart. Okay. So, yes, we are talking about Aries as a Lagna, right? So, for a traditional astrologer or from a follower of astrology, you will think that the major impact will be of Rahu in Aries will be on Aries. Okay, if you only look at it from one Rashi point of view, again, you're not looking at the full picture. All right, even in transits, I'm talking about. Forget the static promise. Just from a transit point of view, you're not looking at the full picture because what's happening here? Okay, see that Rahu in Aries will be Rashi aspecting Aquarius. He will be Rashi aspecting Leo. He will be Rashi aspecting Scorpio. All right. So even though the ascendant is Aries, and you expect the influence of Rahu to be only on Aries, no. Even for an Aries ascendant person, Rahu will influence Aquarius, Leo, and Scorpio. That is me not complicating things for you. Okay. It's just very simple Jaimini astrology aspects. Forget the Tajika system aspects, forget the square, sextile, all those kind of trinal aspects and such. I'm just talking about concrete predictions coming in from the South Indian Maharishi Jaimini's astrology. Okay, we are going to use this in this predictions in this article. That is why you'll see that there will be some recurring influences for the Rashis. Okay, some Rashis will have events that are commonalities for them, both positive and negative. Okay. So going back here, you can also see that for Saturn, all right, Saturn in Pisces will influence Gemini by Rashi aspect, will influence Sagittarius by Rashi aspect, will influence Virgo by Rashi aspect. Okay, so in this chart, Saturn in fact is directly opposite Mars and Mercury. Okay, it will have a very strong impact on these grahas and this house, which is the sixth house cusp, the second house cusp, the third, 12th, and 8th and 9th. Okay, so that's the Jaimini aspects once again. Not only will the grahas in those houses be aspected and will be impacted, the house cusps will also be impacted. And when I'm writing these predictions, I'm using equal house cusps when I write that. Okay. So that's about Saturn, that's about Rahu. Now Ketu. Ketu will be impacting the sign of Libra, Leo, Aquarius, and Taurus. Okay, that's the Rashi aspects for Ketu. Any house cusps there, any grahas there will be impacted. Then we have Jupiter. Jupiter will be Rashi aspecting Capricorn, Cancer, and Libra. Okay, so any house cusps here, any grahas here will be impacted. But of course, I do not know your natal graha placements, right? I do not have your chart in front of me. But I can use Aries as an ascendant, Libra as an ascendant, Taurus as an ascendant, etc., and derive the house cusps for myself with your equal house cusp system. Okay, I've not taken the grahas of your chart into account, but I've taken the house cusps into account, and I've taken the ascendant into account. I've taken the nature of the planets to that particular ascendant into account, and then made these predictions. Okay, so quite a lot of complex things have gone into making this. That's why it took some time to write, but I hope it adds some meaning and value in how you can use transits for predictions, how you can derive from just standalone techniques like transits and derive very good predictions. Okay. And then, of course, you have the nakshatras and all those other complex advanced techniques of astrology as well, which you can take into account when you're making the predictions. But I'm just talking from the point of view of two concrete systems, which is Maharshi Parashara's system as well as Maharshi Jaimini's system. Those two are sufficient to do fantastic job in astrology. Okay. Okay, now let's begin. I'm basically going to read through this. I will not explain why and what because it's going to be too complex to do that. But the why and what is because of those placements and taking into account the house curves. Again, I reiterate that. If you understood this part of the Rashi aspects, then you will understand why and what these positive and negative are coming from, or where the origins of this positive and negative are. Okay. And I will not explain anything more in detail because of the interest of time here. I also would encourage you to contemplate and think why I wrote that. Okay, then you'll get the ideas for yourself. All right, so for Aries, the positives are foreign travels for both leisure and work, new breakthroughs or horizons in career and life purpose or direction, focus on health and self love, recovery from diseases, changes to body and appearance, especially face and the head region, marriage or meeting of spouse, and changes in relationship life, fame and success in business, increase in income and new sources of income or investments, including promotions and bonus, etc., new long-term investments or returns from long-term investments, retirement of native's father, retirement for people in that age group. Basically, if you are in your 50s and 60s, you could retire. Or if your father is in that age group, even your father can retire. Okay. Early retirement for people interested to take break from career, which means if they have had enough of work stress and they want to take some break from their career, that scope is also there. Okay. The negatives: expense on account of career and father or government, reorganization at work or projects. There will be instability there. Okay. Imprisonments due to career related or government related frauds and cases. This they must be extremely careful. Okay, Aries. Unnecessary expenses and worries due to health, distress due to financial reasons and lack of sleep. All right. Of course, when I say health difficulties and financial difficulties, if you are bad at financial management and if your health is in a bad shape, then there is evidence that it can manifest. Okay. Otherwise, you don't need to worry much. If not careful, possibility of weight gain, losses in long-term investments, frequenting hospitals or secluded places. Okay. You can read between the lines for whatever these are. Losses from pets or animals, losses to or from the father, okay, such as hospitalizations of the father, okay, such things. Sometimes in worst case scenarios, even parents and children might be, fighting for some land or property. They will be suing each other. Those kind of things also can happen here. Scrutiny from the government leading to losses or imprisonment. Scrutiny for whatever negative wrong actions they have done. All right. Minor head, face, or sexual organs related surgeries, cosmetic surgeries also, even voluntarily taking up is possible. If other factors support in the chart, sexual organ related infections or STDs are possible. Okay. Once again, these are a very bold and strong predictions to make, both positive and negative, but I have explained the reason why I'm doing that. Okay. One thing is I want to make this more of a tutorial of how you can use transits and how you can derive predictions. Second thing is I've given you the context of why I made that. Okay. And also do not hesitate to make such predictions with your clients if you know it's possible. And let's say you are an astrologer, you can use this material. Analysis of the client's chart is done, which is the static promise, you understand, the natal graha placements, you understand. Then the scope is there. If you know from those static promises, then don't hesitate to make these predictions. Okay. So that's the message that I want to give with this bold predictions for any of these lagnas that we look. Okay. Next for Taurus. All right. Acquisition of various objects, important growth and focus events in life of elder siblings, new animals or pets, promotions, gains from career or government, recognition at work. Okay. Income, increase or advancement, focus on marriage and children, meeting a counselor, guru, or life coach that will help them fix their life in general in a positive manner, spiritual development and focus on religion, changes to life path or purpose in a positive manner. Okay. Conception or birth of a child, sudden windfalls of money such as inheritance, insurances, luck with bank loans, which means availing a new loan, leisure travels to foreign places, and well-being retreats. Okay, that's the impact for Taurus positively. The negatives for Taurus: chronic stress or fatigue, enormous workloads and responsibilities, financial losses or stress, physical burnout, very much possible. Okay. Health issues even may perplex medical community, especially bacterial infections, kidney stones, bladder, urinary tract and digestive system related. Okay. Crises or negative news in the life of grandparents. If your grandparents are alive and they are having some issues with their health, unfortunately it could be some challenges. Depression and lack of energy or motivation towards life due to reduced energy levels. Okay, that is another possibility. Mental stress due to unforeseen losses, both material as well as mental stress on account of worrying attitude. Okay, issues in the life of elder siblings which will also impact their personal life, subject to robbery or petty crimes from miscreants. That is something they must be very careful. Conflicts in relationships with relatives, especially maternal uncles and aunts. Okay, those are the negative influences for Taurus. Next we have Gemini. It's very crisp and clear for Gemini. Okay, just like the Rashi itself, we can say here. The positives are increase in career responsibilities or roles. For politicians and leaders, scope for attaining authoritative positions or ascending the throne in the world is possible. There are a lot of elections coming up in many parts of the world. Okay, so there could be a lot of spotlight for politicians and leaders with Gemini ascendant. Okay, reorganization in career structure, new social circles, groups of friends they might meet, focus on friends, focus on children and their education is also possible. Okay, focus on spiritual learning like mantras, japa, meaning spiritual growth is there, religious pilgrimage, long distance travels, spiritual service and charity. They might get involved in those. Of course, only if the chart is pointing, right? If you have a person who is an atheist, they might least but be bothered about such things. So it's something to take into account here. Negatives for Gemini: expenses or losses on account of children or creative projects. Okay, the creative projects that you do are also basically your brainchild. So you have to treat them as your children. As much as you take care of your creative projects, it will sustain. If you're not taking care, there could be losses and expenses there. Expenses can also be such things like investing resources into that to make it better, but the yield might be not there yet. Okay. Stressful travels due to work, unforeseen expenses due to counselors or therapy, especially for Gemini. Okay. Loss of job or career, again taking the recession into account, something to keep in mind. Isolation, end of social circles or termination of friendships, long-term relationships with people for various reasons, regretting recent important decisions. Okay, that's also the negative impact for Gemini. So you might ask me, you say there is scope for leadership growth and development and career responsibilities and roles. And you also mention your loss of job or career. How both are possible? Again, depends on your chart. The scope is there. If you're in a great dasha and bhukti, you will have ascension, positive news for you. Negative dasha and bhukti, you will have negative results. And the world is a bit crazy now, which recently, like, I've read stories where people were promoted in some big tech companies into executive roles and authoritative positions. In the next week, they got fired. Mixed results like that also can happen. So you must be open to that possibilities. Unfortunately, that's the way the world is working now with this recession and hyperinflation picture. Okay, so that is Gemini. Next, for Cancer, the positives are from the period of 22nd March 2020 until March 2023. Okay, there must have been a new career change, or they were exploring fresh new water for career. Cancer. Okay, that's a pun year for Cancer. This change will take new shape and undergo positive developments and transitions in 2023. Okay, whatever they were invested in, they had two minds about doing it or not doing it. Suddenly, they will find more interest and focus on pursuing that. Okay, so whatever that big nice things came for Cancer in that window from 2020 to 2023 March, they must capitalize on that now. Okay, the scope is there to do that. There could be recovery from mental, emotional, and physical health issues for Cancer. There could be surgery for better health, positive surgery things, newfound direction for life, assertive action. They will be more assertive. Okay, after you recover from all this trauma and such, there will only be good things to come. Increased training and exercise habits, undertaking new forms of education or courses, certifications, learning new skills, all those kind of things. New opportunities in foreign places for career, purchase or renovation of house and vehicles, breakthroughs in healing trauma, mental or emotional wounds, and chronic ailments. Suddenly, they might find a good therapist or a good medical examiner that might diagnose those issues in the right way. End of bond with home country, very important for Cancer. Okay, which means permanent foreign settlement is possible. All right. Growth in business and business travels for acquiring new contacts or clients, settling debts and loans. Okay. So the wordings that I have used is extremely important. I did not just write any other words that I wanted to write here. I'm definitely given a lot of attention to that. Okay. So when I say growth in business and business travels for acquiring new contacts and clients, it literally means that. Okay. So you must not read it as if it is some random sentence here. Okay. So those are the positives for Cancer. For the negatives, there is lack of happiness, depression and emptiness, collapse of emotional and social structure, unable to balance work and domestic life. Obesity, Cancer in general as an ascendant has a difficulty with maintaining good body weight and such. So if they have problems in that arena, yes, they can gain more weight. Minor surgeries or accidents are possible. They must be careful. Chronic new disease diagnosis, health issues for parents and grandparents, issues with the law and order, such as court cases and police cases. Must be very careful not to break any law here. Conflicts with siblings, teammates, and neighbors. Stress in the life of siblings, especially younger siblings. Issues in marriage. Ending of marriage through divorce is also a possibility, unfortunately, for them, or other ways if applicable. When I say if other ways, again I expect you to read between the lines here. Okay. Conflicts with teachers or gurus. If they're having issues with teachers and gurus at schools, colleges, or ashrams, again they might run into problem here. Lack of purpose or direction, spiritual depression basically. Okay. Duped by religious people due to following dogmatic beliefs. Suddenly, they would have like a 7 of clubs experience in the cards. All right. Or they might experience that their philosophies, whatever they believed and such, did not yield the expected results. Okay. That is something to keep in mind when they're following religious people without questioning or without doing some deep dive analysis before involving themselves in such systems. Okay. Then of course reaching the limitations of beliefs and philosophies. That's the same continued for that. Okay. So those are the negative results for Cancer. So next is Leo. Positives for Leo are changes, restructuring of business. Definitely this is a huge thing. New phases in relationships or business partnerships. New career changes for spouse. Health improvements after struggles. Initially there will be crisis, but after that they will improve. Okay. Interest in foreign religion, teachings or meeting foreign gurus in ashrams. Long distance travels, newfound interest in spirituality or teachings after harsh realities of life teach a lesson. Okay, meaning they have made some mistakes, now they're repenting and sort of finding more solace in religion and philosophy. Okay, religious inclinations, changes in career or lucky breaks in career, but particularly after May 2023. This will be manifested before May 2024 though. In this 1 year, it will happen. Okay. For mathematicians, astrologers, and astronomers, big lucky breaks in their theories, research, and knowledge. Which means if you're a Leo ascendant, you can expect some big lucky breaks or big manifestations in that arena of astrology, mathematics, astronomy, and so on. Okay. Negatives: health risk for both the person and the spouse. Okay. In this 12 ascendants that I'm discussing, normally I've not taken other people into account so much. Only 4 or 5 significant people I always take into account is spouse, children, grandparents, and parents. Okay. But we can do more than that, which means we can study the spouse's life only from the person's chart. Okay. And so on. We can do more detailed analysis. I've not done that, but I've given you an overview. Some bits and pieces are here, which you can then of course look into for your own predictions and such. Okay. So unfortunately for Leo, there is a health risk for both person and the spouse. Again, you must read between the lines here a little bit. Okay. Business closures are possible, bankruptcies are possible, surgeries are also possible. Tax frauds, again, Donald Trump, we have a live example for that. Trouble with the government, such as auditing of business files and taxes. That's one thing that they will do. Okay. Depending on social welfare, insurance, loans, or income of the spouse for their livelihood. Okay, that could also be the case. Trouble from loan sharks or fraudsters. Unfortunately, if people are going through a lot of financial troubles and if they lose a job or something like that, it could lead to excess loans, right? And that will be some trouble there. Delays or obstacles in getting loans or financial support from others. Okay. Codependency and increase in addictions. People who are already addicts, smoking, eating chocolate, binge eating junk food, right? Drinking, all those things, there could be increase in addictions. Sexual health and sexual organ related issues. Must be very careful. Again, sexual addiction is also falling into the same realm here. Okay. Cheating or frauds in business, unable to pay debts or loans, excess burden there. Sudden losses or accidents, unforeseen events, okay, which they did not anticipate. Trouble or boredom in marriage, okay, they have reached a sort of a plateau in marriage and sustaining that might be difficult. Fear of death or death like suffering, Okay, fear of death is as good as death like suffering sometimes. Okay, always being fearful of the unknown and anxious that things will only go wrong, that worrying attitude, pessimistic attitude, okay, that will increase for Leo. Financial distress for the spouse, losses in the form of alimony payments, okay, if they go through a divorce or if they have had some court cases going towards that, that will be losses, okay. Sexual organ related issues or STDs, if they are not careful, even sex scandals are possible. Cheating or betraying if the chart is pointing at that, okay. So they must be extremely careful in the arena of relationships and such before they take any action, Leo. Okay, that's the negatives for Leo. Next we go into Virgo. So for Virgo, the positives are fame through creative works or business. Excess fame will come, okay. Overcoming obstacles to creativity, some breakthroughs there. Relationship and business with hard work and new strategies will lead to results, okay. So they will have some issues going on in their creative life, relationship life, or business life. It will all find a relief course, okay. Long distance travels on account of business or creative projects or children, but it will be stressful, okay. Scope for marriage and children, if the chart is pointing, of course. Participation in religious activities in own country or distant lands, such as pilgrimage or visiting a guru or ashram, okay. Both are possible for Virgo. Fortunes through spouse. Spouse will have newfound income. Fortunes through real estate. Possession of new vehicles and various material objects, leading to happiness. Good creative period for teachers, students, artists, and writers, leading to start of new projects or collaborations. Okay, if you're a Virgo ascendant in these professions, you will have some nice time. Availing or restructuring of loans, financial support from government, insurance or spouse, increase in income post May 2023. So after May 2023, they can expect that. So negatives for Virgo. Defamation in the form of scandals. They must be very careful in this. Relationship breakups, divorce, litigation cases on account of business, financial distress. Increased family responsibilities leading to stress, obstacles and stress to business. Health issues for the spouse but recoverable after 2023. Okay, it will be a temporary phase now. Increased addictions and codependency on drugs. Experiencing near death or death like events on account of severe loss of some sort, particularly in the first half of the year, 6 months of 2025. Okay, so they can have some near death or death like events coming their way for Virgo. There is some very tough transits coming up, particularly in the first 6 months of 2025. Again, I write here as a note, be careful with assessment as it is extremely subjective to the individual birth charts, which means if it is not indicated in that individual birth chart that such an event can happen, or the dasha and bhukti or the cards are not pointing at that, or the varshafala is not pointing at that, you must completely refrain from that, making that prediction, okay? But some tough times are there in beginning of 2025. Sexual organ related issues or STDs, sex scandals, cheating or betraying if the chart is pointing at that. Very similar situation compared to the previous two lagnas that we saw, especially like Leo, Virgo will have the same theme. Okay. So next is Libra, and just like Gemini, it's going to be very crisp and clear for them. So The positives for Libra: scope for purchase of vehicles and home, leading to bank loans and debts. So here there is still debts and loans, but on account of positive things. There is scope for marriage, conceiving or birth of a child, long distance journeys, inheritance, and good luck with finances and loans. Increase in income from spouse. Spouse will also financially support them. Business success for Libra ascendants. New partnerships and growth. Increase in exercise activity. So they will give more focus on health. The negatives for Libra: lack or obstacles to happiness. There will be lack of happiness or some burdens which will make them not experience happiness so easily. Conflicts at home, especially with the mother. Medical expenses, health crisis, and potential resurfacing of underlying conditions or recurrent illness, which will not be a new illness, it will be a recurrent illness. Minor surgery, trouble from enemies, delays and obstacles at work, okay, severe work stress leading to burnout, financial crisis, especially mortgage loans, okay, vehicles leading to expenses as well, some unforeseen expenses. So good to have vehicle insurances in place here. Stress and expenses due to children and creative projects. Trouble to children's well-being in the form of illness. Okay. So their children, they must take care of them very much in this transits. Relationship breakups and divorces. Trouble from stepmother if they have one. Okay. Issues in the life of relatives, particularly maternal uncle and grandparents, which will lead to expenses or personal stress. Okay, again, you must learn to read between the lines here when I mention that. So that's the negative results for Libra. In the next video, we'll cover from Scorpio to Pisces.